So I'll hit record and say official good morning and welcome to our fourth and final Master Gardener video visit of the year. And we are going to be talking about retention and recognition today, which is a big topic. And this analogy is for you, Jenny. As I was thinking about how we discuss this, I think that lots of times we talk the most about recruiting. And I think that recruiting, using a football analogy, is the offense of our Master Gardener program. And I think that retention and recognition are kind of the defense and the special teams of our Master Gardener program. So we're going to be focusing a little bit on some of the things that we know are really important, but sometimes we don't talk about as much. So today, defense and special teams under the topic of retention and recognition. And as we get started, to kind of do the hello and recognition of our counties, last time what we did was have everybody put their county in the chat box, and it kind of worked out well. It was a cool thing. So as we get started this morning, I'm just going to ask you to hop in your chat box, which is the little bubble at the bottom of your screen, and you may have to scroll down there to see your little dashboard pop up, but it'll give you that chat box, and you can just tell us what county you're from. You're always welcome to put in names if you want, but that'll kind of give us a little bit of a roll call. We've got Madison County, Bradley County, Wilson, Rutherford, Lauderdale, Franklin. A big welcome to Franklin County. Morgan and Anna are going to be kind of combining a Franklin and Coffee County Master Gardener group, so we're really glad to have them joining in. So welcome aboard, Morgan, for one of your very first official Extension Master Gardener events. We've got Knox County, Blount, Fayette, Shelby, me, Dyer County, Greene County, Montgomery, Tipton, Sumner, the whole officer board in Sumner County. So it's a great slate of folks clear across the state of Tennessee. So to begin us today, I have a few PowerPoint slides that just talk a little bit, kind of framing the discussion for what we're going to do today. And we have 3 different counties that are going to talk about unique and all-important aspects of retention and recognition. So I am going to move to the slide set and open that up, and we'll talk about some kind of big picture things about volunteers and retention and recognition, and then we'll get into the most fun part of the discussion, which is, of course, hearing from different counties and some of the unique aspects that they've taken on this. So I titled this just starting our discussion because when we think about this, retention and recognition are huge topics, and so we're just going to hit on some key steps today. But if I were to give you my perspective on what are some of the things that I think as an entire state we'll be talking a lot about over the next few years, I think this is it, right? Because we spent a lot of time working on our training curriculum, and intern training will continue to be very important. We have a good handbook and all those sorts of things, but I think that as we move forward, talking about how do we serve the people who are here are some of the most important topics for us to discuss. So when we think about the volunteers that are walking into our Master Gardener groups right now, we have different generations, right? We have retiring baby boomers, we have some young Generation Y, we have a few Generation X there in the middle, and so while they do have some unique characteristics, they also have a lot of things that they have in common. They're there because they want to make a difference, right? They don't want to just contribute, they don't want to just show up and attend meetings, and they want to do it quickly. And that's exciting, but it can also be challenging sometimes for our groups to bring in new people and give them roles where they can immediately make an impact. They aren't afraid of commitments, but they want to make sure that there's a payoff for them. And when we look at the reasons why people join volunteer organizations like Master Gardeners, it's because they want to gain information, right? There are some key things that they want to get out of our organization. So we want to make sure that we're delivering payoffs for folks who are putting in lots and lots of hours in service with our programs. They won't tolerate incompetence, right? This is something that, you know, keeps me up at night, but gets me up raring to go in the morning, because it's exciting that we have a lot of people moving into organizations that have an amazing skill set, right? Lots of different unique talents. And it's up to us to operate an organization that has a really high standard, but also is open and welcoming, right? We want to keep that personal touch while also making sure that we're professional and we get things done. And it's a critical balance to always strike. And above all, this may be the most important thing. Today's volunteer, which is all of you I know who are busy, have many obligations, right? Many volunteers operate with different organizations, and this number probably won't be surprising to you, but in our last group of interns across Tennessee, 56% of them are still in the workforce in some way, right? So if, as a stereotype, people look at Master Gardeners and they say, oh, they're all retired, it's not really true, right? We have some very dedicated folks who are, but actually the majority of people coming into organization aren't. And so we have to keep that in mind going forward. That 56%, I'll tell you where it came from. We did a select sampling of several different counties across the state and just asking questions, brand new interns, about their experience with the Master Gardener program. Last year, we surveyed about 130 new interns, and we asked them, why did you join on a scale of 1 to 10? So these numbers probably won't be surprising, but it gives data to kind of what our assumptions have been. 9.6 out of 10, they join, right, for knowledge, for education. So we always want to make sure that we're delivering good information. But over 8 out of 10 said they wanted to help the community, right? So they're already kind of getting behind our cause. They know why it is that we're here. They're interested in ongoing education and service. This is something that comes up to me a lot. We want to make sure we train people well coming in the door, but how do we make sure that we're giving them enough content to keep them engaged over time? They want to meet like-minded people, and some of them are becoming involved because they have more personal time. But what you can see is that they have much higher objectives than just finding things to do with their time. And so we want to keep that involved. Keep that in mind as we think about how to motivate our volunteers. Because if I were to lump them together, I would say that retention and recognition are all elements of motivation. And so that's really what we're going to be talking about. How do we motivate volunteers to stay engaged with our organization? So the big picture is that we want our organization to have a culture that stimulates internal motivation in each volunteer, right? We're not paying people. They're here because they want to be. And so it's an internal sense of motivation that keeps people involved. But what we do around the entire culture of our organization is what can create that internal motivation. And so this culture term might be something that we hear a little bit about over the next few years, because I think when I think about our program, right, it's not just a set of rules, it's not just a set of regulations, it's not just hours in the community, but it really is a culture that we're creating around our Master Gardener program. And so I think that's really important for retaining and recognizing folks. So when we think about the levels that volunteers generally move through when they get involved in a program, often they'll come for self-serving reasons. And self-serving does not need, I don't mean that to be negative. They're coming for education. They're coming because they want to get involved in a new community. That's all important. But what we want to do is move them up that scale, right? Because they come because they want information. Then they create relationships and they have a community there. But the highest and most productive level of volunteer motivation is when they believe in the cause that we're here for, right? So they're committed. We're bringing them in and we're convincing them that this is an organization that they want to be involved with for the long term. And so that's what a lot of volunteer motivation has to do with. So how do we do it? We want to meet them where they are. We want to move them up, right? We want to say, hey, you came for knowledge and information. We want to give you that. But we also want to connect you with people. We also want to connect you with our mission, right? Our cause, so that you believe in what it is that we're doing. And so everything we do that has to do with even intern training, right, through that process, through our mentoring, through our growth teams and things like that to connect people. We're bringing them in at this level where they know they want to get something. We're moving them up, making it relational, and then making them a believer in our cause. So what keeps volunteers motivated? Information, right? Altruism, and opportunity to help their community and accomplish goals. Society, right? Connecting with other people. And the fact that a lot of what we do can also be linked to self-esteem. And so as we get into the county discussions and people share some of the techniques that they're using to connect people, to recognize people, and to accomplish important goals in their community, here are some of the important questions that we're going to talk about. We want to highlight and celebrate the payoffs, right? Because we know volunteers are coming for information and they're staying for information, and for the connectivity of people. But we also want to make sure that we're explaining what the cause is, right? And showing people how we're achieving it. Are we mission driven? Do we have goals that we're accomplishing in our local groups, right? Not just knowing what we want to accomplish, but actually getting there. Do we connect with people and coach them, right? If you look at a lot of the information on today's volunteer, what it will say is they don't just want to be told what to do, right? They don't want to be managed. They want to be led. They want to be coached, a team approach to where we're going. And all of this, of course, gets down to one of the most critical foundational elements of volunteer motivation, which is personal recognition and respect. And so I know that those are big picture ideas, but we're going to talk about 3 different ways that different counties are kind of getting at this idea of volunteer motivation. So the first county that we're going to hear from is Rutherford County, and they're going to tell us some about their growth team. And that's kind of going to be the way that we talk about connecting, coaching, bringing in people and kind of moving them from self-serving up to relational. Then we're going to talk about setting goals in the local organization, planning, right, being mission-driven and having a common cause in the community. Knox County is going to share with us some of what they're doing in those areas. And then we're going to finish off our discussion hearing from Shelby County, but also all of you guys who want to chime in about the idea of personal recognition, right? How do we celebrate people investing in our organizations and kind of illustrating what the payoff is for folks who are involved in the Master Gardener program. So that's kind of the foundation and the way that we're going to tie all of these things together. I'm going to stop this share, and I'm going to turn the proverbial microphone over to Rachel in Rutherford County, and she and many of her volunteers who want to jump in are going to talk to us a little bit about the growth team and some of the things they're doing in the Murfreesboro area.
Okay, so the growth team is really a group of 9 of our members, and they come together about once every 2 months to meet. And first of all, they help with the intern classes by basically being there. So they switch up with who comes to the classes just so that there's a face that welcomes interns to the classes. And they, just talk to them during the break and just get to know them so that they feel like they know some of our members. They are also the ones that do the interviews. So whenever we have people that apply for the program, the growth team, they split up all the applications and they call all of the people that have applied. And they just talk to them. Why are you interested in joining the Master Gardeners? Do you understand what that means? You know that it's a volunteer program. They go over all the requirements with them. Even though it says it on the application, people don't always read that. So just make sure that they know what they're getting into. And we found that that's really helpful. And really, even if we have 30 people apply or something like that, if we call them first, and it's a growth team member, not me, it's another member that explains to them what it means to them to be a Master Gardener, what they've gained from being in the program, then that's really helpful. And last year we had 30 people that applied, and after the growth team interviewed, they had 6 people that decided to take the Garden Basics class instead of the Master Gardeners because they didn't want to become a volunteer. They didn't have time to serve hours. So really it kind of gets those people out of the way first that don't have any intention of actually certifying. So to me, that's a good thing. And that's fine that they're not interested in doing that. We have another program they can go do. Second, they have the growth team handbook. So it's about, what is it, 15 pages, and it goes at the beginning of their binders. So whenever we put together their binders of all those little chapters for the classes, this goes at the very beginning and starts off just explaining what the growth team is with all of their photos so that they feel like they know the growth team. And then it goes over, you know, what is extension and who are your extension agents. And so it has a list of all of the ag agents, all the FCS and everything like that, and just kind of explains what our office does. Then it goes through the class schedule again so that they have that. Goes over just some things to know. So what to do if you miss a class, what to do if you have questions during the class, you know, anything like that, building keys, what to do if you're locked out or something like that. Then it has a little sheet for them to keep up with their hours, or that's kind of hard to see. But until they get into the system and we explain how to enter hours online, they need somewhere to keep up with them. And we found by giving them a little sheet that they will actually most of the time do it. Then we have a list of all of the project leaders and the board members. And so that's really helpful because they know who to reach out to if they're interested in a certain project, or, you know, who the president is or anything like that. So just trying to pull them into the association from the very beginning. And we go over this in the very first class. So the growth team gets up there and speaks for a second and just goes over it all. Of course, what it means to be a Master Gardener volunteer, and it has the mission and what we do and things like that. And then the use of the Master Gardener title, so what's okay, what's not, you know, you can't wear it at work. And we give them a free membership to the association their first year. So it just goes over when our association meetings are, and it says, you know, present this to the treasurer and you won't have to pay dues your very first year. So it kind of pulls them in and they feel like they're already part of the association. So this has just been helpful because it kind of answers all those questions that they would be coming to me for otherwise. And so they do that, and they welcome the interns a lot, basically. But more than that, whenever we get together and we meet, we kind of go over, you know, is there anyone that you feel is kind of lost within the association? And so we kind of, it's not that you're talking about other people, it's more that we're trying to make sure that everyone feels like they have a place. So trying to find a niche for everyone, you know, well, okay, if you haven't seen them in a little while, let's reach out to them. Make sure they know that we care, that we haven't seen them in a while. And then we kind of discuss, you know, where do we think that they would be interested in volunteering? Or maybe if we don't know, we just ask them, you know, are there any projects you're interested in? Let's get you in touch with that project leader so that we can get you volunteering with that project. So really it's just intentional reaching out, intentional placement, I guess. We talk about maybe some interns that we think would be good project leaders for next year. And then we go and ask them, would you be interested? So the growth team does a lot of that. So we have a lot of interns that are going to be project leaders next year or co-project leaders. And it's because the growth team kind of intentionally reach out to them and intentionally focuses on what is that person doing already. Maybe they're interested in the veggie demonstration garden. Let's ask them if they would be ready to take the next step. And then they also have 2 interns that join the growth team every year. So at the end of the intern training classes, you know, they have their little May graduation thing from the training classes. Then they pinpoint 2 interns that, and they vote on them. So I'm not a part of that. It's from their peers. And they say, we would really like for you to join the growth team and become part of the welcoming kind of fuzzy feeling, I guess, get to know you intentionality. So I think that's what their big focus is just being intentional, reaching out, and I guess I call them kind of like the sheepdogs of the group because they kind of herd everyone in the right direction. So yeah, that's the growth team.
And so your membership is mostly voluntary with the exception of the 2 interns that you recruit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I got here and the growth team was already there, but there was a lot of people that had kind of fallen off. So I just asked if anyone would be interested in taking on a growth team position. And we had 9 that stepped up and said yes. And then at the end of this year, we had 2 that just didn't have time for work and things like that. They were always missing the growth team meetings. So they said they wanted to step down. And so we, as a group, they decided that they wanted to invite 2 interns so they could pull in more interns and get them as part of the growth team. And part of that, this, you pick out people that are really good at picking up on people's emotions and actions and just trying to fit people in where they would, I guess, like to be.
Yeah, so kind of bridging the gap between the training and all the rest of the activities of the organization. Because when I think lots of times we see people come into an intern training knowing that they want to get information, but still feeling like they don't know how to cite themselves with everything else that's going on.
Yeah, and I think they don't feel comfortable stepping up and taking on new roles. They feel like they might step on somebody's toes in a group that's 100, 75 people-ish. Then you're going to have problems with interns feeling like they can't be a leader, I guess, that they're not at that point yet, or maybe there's someone else that should be taking that role. But really the growth team going and physically asking them, hey, you just seem like you love the butterfly garden. Would you be interested in co-leading that next year with Brenda? And of course they're like, yeah, I would love that. And so then all of a sudden you have this intern that just took the training class and now they're becoming a leader. So it's a really good way of, like you said, bridging that gap from being this intern and feeling like you don't know where you fit to, if someone comes and asks you that, you're like, yes, of course, I love that. I'm out there every day. So pushing them into those roles.
Well, and I think that it's also a step that's kind of transitioning what we're seeing with the people who are moving into organizations. And this is a generalization, right? It's not true of everybody. But 10 or 15 years ago, volunteers may have been willing to just kind of move in slowly, right? Maybe in half a dozen years, I can be an officer. But I think that that's not really where everybody's coming from now. They want to get involved right in the door, and this provides an opportunity to connect them, but also connect them in a way that that's not overwhelming and that provides good context.
Yeah, and really just connecting them with their project leader. So even if they don't want to become a project leader, you just say, hey, you seem to always ask questions about herbs, have you met our herb garden project leader? Maybe you should talk to her and get together, and you might have some good ideas that you could share with her. So it's not just pushing them into leadership roles, but just making sure that they're connected with the people in the organization that they have similar interests with.
All right, that sounds great. Thanks so much for sharing, Rachel. Does anybody else have any questions or comments they want to toss in before we move on to our next county?
This is Marcia. I have a question, but it's not about the growth team. It's about those applicants who are honest enough to tell you they don't want to be a volunteer. And you said you have another program for them?
Yeah, so our Master Gardeners teach Garden Basics, which is a 5-week course, and it's on Thursday nights from 6 to 9. So all the Master Gardeners teach it, and every night there's 2 Master Gardeners that teach. And so it's $50, and it's not $150. And so it's kind of just the scaled back version. And we actually have, each year about 5 that apply that took Garden Basics the year before. So it's kind of a good starter thing. And the Master Gardeners have been doing that, I think, I don't know, they told me the other day, like 2008 or something. So,
okay, but some of those then decide to come back and become Master Gardeners?
Yes. So right then and there, they're like, whoa, I didn't realize that this was that big of a deal. I didn't realize this was a full year commitment. I just want to learn on how to garden. And so, and I think, honestly, part of that is because they're talking to another Master Gardener. If they were talking to me, I'm not sure that they would be that honest, like, oh, I don't think I want to do this anymore, even though I already sent you my application. But since they're talking to another Master Gardener and they're like, this is everything that's involved, a monthly meeting, and they kind of go through everything that we do, then that person is like, whoa, I didn't realize I was going to have to serve 40 hours. I didn't realize that this was a once a week commitment to come to these training classes for 15 weeks in a row. And even though it's all in the application, don't know why they don't read that, but I think it's just good for another master gardener to kind of go over those with them and make sure, are you really interested in this? If you're not, we have another option. So yeah, Garden Basics is for 5 weeks for 3 hours each time and only $50. And the master gardeners completely schedule that and do that on their own. I come and, you know, maybe talk about how to read your soil test, but they do everything else. And we found that it's really good. We'll have like 75 people that take it. That's a lot. But then from that, you might have 5 or 6 that weren't ready to take the Master Gardener course yet, but now they are, because they've learned what you can learn from this program, and, you know, they're kind of more ready to take the plunge.
At least 3 this year.
All right, thanks. So from our first discussion about the growth team and kind of bringing people from that, I came for information, to now I understand that it's more relational and that there's a bigger mission. One of the other counties that we're going to hear from is Knox County, and they're going to share some about the way that they're planning for the outcomes that they want to see in their local county. And it's really about bringing people into, this is our cause, right? A more mission driven organization. And so we have the president and vice president and some of the very key project leaders who are going to share with us from Knoxville.
Okay, so I'm Barbara Bunting, and we don't have a camera on our computer, which is why you don't see us on the screen. I'm the president this year. We do not have an agent, so the 3 of us are teaming up here today. So the strategic plan that we developed is what I'm going to be explaining a little bit about today to you guys. And that all started in the summer of 2017, when we had a membership committee that was initiating a full membership survey so we could shed some light on our retention issues. One of the concerns we had was that the core project leaders, our core projects, were not getting enough volunteers, and that it was hard to communicate between the leaders and the volunteers. So once we got the survey, we used that, the executive committee used that, the results from that, to formulate our strategic plan. And we presented. So basically, the result of that executive committee planning was the strategic plan, which many of you probably saw as a poster at the state meeting in April. So we have 6 basic goals that we are working on, and the thing is going to be a continuing process. This isn't a one-time shot deal. We're going to constantly be revisiting it and updating and checking off that, yes, we've accomplished this, let's move forward to the next thing. So both Ron and I are going to share, explaining to you a little bit about the strategic plan aspects. And we had 6 goals. So Ron's going to start with the first one.
And our first goal, and one of the goals that was very important to the members, was to make some improvements in our monthly meeting structure. So what we had been doing was we had a few minutes before our meeting for what we would call social time, and then we had our program, and then after the program we had a business meeting. And what we were finding was that we were losing everyone after the program. So the more than half the people were getting up and leaving. So we restructured our entire meeting so that, first of all, we would have a longer period before the meeting, and we also introduced food. So we asked our members to bring finger food for about a half an hour period before the meeting starts. And then we have a very short meeting that is really announcements only. But what that does is that that restructuring allows all those the information to be passed on to the members before the program, and so they were getting that information that they weren't getting before. And then we have the speaker after that meeting, and the flow has been much better. The other thing we have done is that we only have a true business meeting quarterly. We found that the members really were not that interested in all the aspects of the business meeting. So we have a business meeting only on a quarterly basis, really with the same schedule. We just have a little more time for that business meeting prior to the speaker. So that has worked out with really an increased membership. We had as many as 80 people, I think, at our highest meeting.
Yeah, in years past, it was in the 30s.
Right.
Yeah. So the second goal was mentor program development, and this falls in line with a lot of what Rachel said, and we took notes crazily while you were talking, Rachel, because all of that applies so much to where we want to go. So 2 years ago, we ran a mentoring pilot program, and this year we expanded it so that every Master Gardener intern had a mentor. And we're really directing our efforts here to helping the interns find the best fit for their skills and their interests, and so that they can feel part of the group. So we're just taking baby steps toward what you just expanded on Rachel, and I think that's going to be a very critical thing. Goal number 3 was to improve camaraderie and teamwork. And the basic assumption here was that if you learn and play together, then perhaps you will work together also. And we formed a committee to evaluate possibilities of doing educational field trips. And this year we had 3. Some of them were educational, some were just fun. One of them was even an overnight bus trip, which required a little bit of orchestration. Goal number 4 was to tap the underutilized potential of our core projects. So this was pretty much the real critical one. Is the core project leaders were trying to help them find ways to increase the volunteer sense of ownership and empowerment. Those items that Natalie mentioned at the beginning, as a way to keep them engaged and to have them use their brain a little bit. And we've had some pretty good successes with this already this year. So we've got some projects that are already in place that are working nicely, and of course those will all be improved upon. We are also actively encouraging some of those really successful programs to fill out the Search for Excellence applications, even if they don't intend to apply this year, because we have found that once you know what's required on those, then you know where to fill in your gaps. And finally, we are working on ways to facilitate volunteer involvement by getting better communication. And Ron will explain that, and that's our 5th goal.
Well, we have been working for several months to update our website. And really what we were trying to do is we were trying to, as we went through the strategic plan, all of our objectives kind of go back to what we can do in our website. And so we wanted to update our website so that it would not only be a resource, but we could also use it as a communication tool. And so we have forums set up, we have blogs set up for each core project leader so that they can go in and keep their people informed. They can use the forums to inform their people, and also to create discussions among the members. And our newsletter has always been an emailed newsletter, and we are really still working on that aspect of it. But what we want is we want to have all that information available on the website, as well as an emailed file or contact.
And then our final goal is number 6, and that is to boost our external marketing and outreach. And this is something that's on the agenda for next year. We really, if you think about the strategic plan, it was just our list of things to do so that you're not just putting out fires one after another with no real end goal in mind. And I think this has really focused our attention that everything we're trying to do is to address some of the just the voids or the lacks that we saw in our original organization, and to improve all of those. We have a copy of the strategic plan that we can send to Natalie so she can disseminate it around the rest of the group, to those who are interested. But basically what it was we developed a spot matrix, which is used in organizations and corporations a lot. So those of you with larger groups, you probably even have someone who's familiar with having participated in it. You may even be lucky like us and have a facilitator on your executive committee who knows how to actually facilitate the development of the spot matrix. So wrap up.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for sharing some of the things that you've done in Knoxville. I think that for many folks, when they hear the term strategic plan, they get a little bit nervous, but really what you were doing was just creating a list of goals that you wanted to accomplish within your organization.
Right.
This is Marcia. I would add that what Barbara referred to as a spot matrix came first, and that was looking at what are the things we do well, what are the strengths, what are the problems that we have, what are the opportunities that are out there that we'd like to grab, and then what potential threats are there. And that really directed where the strategic plan went and how it evolved.
Yeah, and how those kinds of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities can be tied to our overall extension mission, but also in the context of what's important for you guys in your local county.
Right.
The other thing is that when we presented this to the membership so they could see what it was that we had been doing for the last 2 months. And just recently, 2 of the interns mentioned that it was really quite impressive to come into an organization that already had this in place, that they felt that there was some future to where we were going with everything, and they were pretty impressed.
And
you do a review. I'm sorry.
I think that is interesting in that it gets back to some of the other things that we're finding from our new volunteers coming into the program, is that they do appreciate seeing some long-term plans. That's my won't tolerate incompetence bullet, I think, from one of the earlier slides, being able to see that there is a bigger picture. Matt from Bradley County, were you going to say something?
Yes. Do you do a review of, for instance, either quarterly or annually, of how you've done against those goals?
You do.
Yeah, we do. We're every year we intend. I mean, we only set this up in January of this year, but we even just preparing for today, we're looking at things and going, "Whoa! Look at all that we've gotten done," and "Whoa! Look at how much more we have to do and where we can keep expanding." So that's going to be a regular thing, and I think that's what you have to do. I mean, if you're meeting your goals, then that's not a critical thing anymore. Develop, push your energy into developing a new goal that you want to grow with. So, yeah.
I'd really be interested in seeing your plan. And I guess the other comment that I have is that at least the, I've been in the organization for a couple of years, and it seems to me there's too much stress on how many hours you put in, how many hours have we accomplished, how does that translate into dollar numbers? And I don't see, this is what we planned on, this is what we've accomplished across the state or each county. It's, I'm not driven by the number of hours personally. I put in more than enough, and I like to get things done and have impact. And so I'm glad to see you're doing this.
Yeah, we're really not thinking about in terms of hours. We just assume our goal is to get people involved and not even be thinking about the hours except at the end of the day when they record them. But we're not pushing that as this is how you can get your hours. We're pushing that as this is a goal that we all want to be working toward, and this is a great little team, and look at all the brain power we have, and come and join us.
This is Marcia. I would add one more comment, and that is that after we put in 3 SFE applications in 2015, and fortunately we won all 3 of those awards in 2016, doing that SFE application, the emphasis is really placed on the impact to the community. And so it's not about the hours, it's about the impact. And I would say that most of our core project leaders, when they talk about their projects, the focus is on the impact to the community.
Right, because you can have tremendous impact with very few hours.
Correct.
Theoretically.
Yeah, and that's a really great kind of line of thought, and you're making me smile because one of the things that we're doing this fall is having some listening sessions where we're visiting with different volunteers, and the whole context of that discussion is we talk a lot about hours, right? Because it's the easiest thing to measure.
Correct.
We're not going to quit measuring it, but what we really need to focus on beyond that is the personal benefit that is happening in our communities because of those hours. And so it's looking through the number of hours and seeing the lives that are changed. And as an organization, right, it's much easier to measure hours than it is to measure impact. But that's where we need to be, and that's where we need to be going. So I definitely understand what you're saying. I mean, I agree with it. And I think that over the coming months and years, those are the kinds of concepts that we're going to be trying to incorporate in across the state. So I love it. I love hearing about it. In the course of our discussion today, right, we've talked about connecting people, bringing them in. We've talked about goal setting and reaching those goals within the context both of extension mission, but also local needs in the community. But we also want to remember that within all of our organizations are individuals who also appreciate the opportunity to be celebrated and recognized a little bit. And as we get close to the end of the year and we think about some of our year-end stuff, this element of recognition, the special teams of our Master Gardener football team is going to be kind of where we end up. And I remember the very first time I was at a Shelby County intern graduation, actually. I walked into the room and everybody was dressed up and there was cheering. And I remember coming away thinking, gosh, I'm really glad I wore my heels and my dress. These people know how to throw a party. And so to kind of talk a little bit about how we celebrate and show people the payoff of some of the organization, Jenny's going to visit with us a little bit about some of the celebration and recognition aspects.
Yes, good morning. We began, I guess, at the end of the intern class by inviting and encouraging the interns to join us at our monthly meetings. And then we focus on the graduation. And like you said, we sort of go all out. We have a team of people that put together just a wonderful opportunity for the intern graduates to really feel special. We have a very elaborate graduation ceremony, and then we follow that by a very nice reception where our master gardeners provide the decorations and all of the food, and then we have an opportunity of social time that we can interact with the interns and their families, because we invite them to attend all of that, so that the families understand what they've been going through and what kind of organization that they're becoming a part of. And then, of course, we give them also the rest of the year as a free membership to the Master Gardener Association. And then we follow that in September at the first meeting after the graduation, and we dedicate that as a new member celebration dinner. We have a potluck dinner that we have, we hold this out at the Lichterman, where we have a beautiful area out there. We have a really nice dinner, a lot of door prizes, a lot of opportunity for the members that attend to interact with the interns. And we also, during that same time frame, we don't have a speaker or anything. This is just a celebration of the interns' graduation and their becoming a master gardener. And we also have the committee, different committees. We call it a committee fair. And each committee has a table and a presentation so that the interns can just walk through the area, and they can stop at any of the committee tables that are of interest to them, and they can talk with the people that are committee chairs and members of those committees to determine what goes on in that committee, and what is your goals, and what do you do, and how could I fit into that. And so that's an opportunity that we take to introduce them into our program and what we do. Talking about recognition, Dr. Chris and I visited yesterday. We previously had done some spontaneous recognitions in our meetings. They weren't real well received at that point because of the terminology that went with them. But we talked about yesterday bringing that back to where, say during a meeting, we could just intermittently recognize someone that had done something spectacular, just to, as you talked about a little earlier, boost their self-esteem and to encourage them to continue to contribute to our organization, because we have so many talented people. And if they would just contribute and be a part of everything we do, we could really accomplish a great deal.
All right, thanks so much for sharing that. As we get close to the end of our time here, I want to provide the opportunity for you guys to ask questions of Jenny, but also to share some of your favorite recognition, celebration events that you do in your local clubs, because it can be great to share some of those ideas. I'm curious about the spontaneous element. Jenny, was that because folks weren't prepared to be recognized and they were surprised, or?
They were called agraminium. I never can get that word right. Agraminiums. Anyway, I don't know. It just didn't sit well with them for some reason.
Oh, it was just a weird term that made people feel slightly minimized while being recognized, huh?
I think so. They were given a certificate, agraminium award, and I don't know. It was a great idea, and a lot of people liked it, but then there was a lot of negative about it too. So we thought maybe this time we would just do something just out of the blue ask somebody to stand up and tell the group what accomplishment they had made, or what contribution they had made, or something of that nature, just to be able to encourage all of our members to participate in, whatever part of our organization that really spoke to them.
I have, I guess, a comment or feedback on that. I think that if you put people on the spot to basically, for lack of a better term, boast about what their accomplishment was, some people aren't going to feel comfortable with that. I mean, some people don't feel comfortable speaking. So that might be an aspect. Rather than having them talk about their accomplishment, whoever's recognizing them should talk about it.
Yes, we always do. We do the talking, because, like you say, you really don't want to put someone on the spot that's not comfortable in talking, and you especially don't want them to talk about themselves. We want to talk about them because we recognize that they have made a contribution that's of a lot of importance to our organization. So we just want to recognize them and their efforts.
I have a question. Jenny, do you all do like gifts and to go along with their, awards, whether that be certificate or a new pen or name tag or what have you? Do you also do like small gifts for those things? For your interns, to recognize your interns or recognize your graduates, or your, like, do you have like a Master Gardener of the Year and different like larger kind of recognition awards at your year-end banquet that you give small gifts to those recipients, or is it just say, oh, congratulations, you have this title?
It's at this point, it's congratulations, and we dropped the certificate. Like I said, it didn't seem to get the mileage that we had hoped it would. But we are, as I did say, Dr. Chris and I had talked about that yesterday, about how we could enhance that program. Mm-hmm. And that's a good suggestion. Maybe we do need to give some token of our appreciation.
Mm-hmm. We've been doing that. Well, I guess ever since I've been here in Madison County, we change it up and try to make it, different things gardeners would use. What was the brand of those water lines? Do you remember what it's called? Those drum hand waters, long sprinkler things. We did that for some of the special awards, and our awards in Madison County, they're not the same every year. Now, of course, we do always have a Master Gardener of the Year, but we like to just kind of change them up. And so, one year we may have a Educator of the Year award, and the next year we may have a Community Helper Year, award. I mean, it just changes from year to year. So people never really know what's coming. You can't say, oh, who do you think's going to get this award? You know what I mean? So we try to do things like that. And I don't know about everybody else, but our interns, our training is kind of on a weird schedule. So we train in the fall, and we just finished. And our graduation is in February of every year. So actually this coming February, the people who are graduating are the people who took the training class in 2017. Does that make sense? So interns that just finished the class kind of have a long time to go before they get that final recognition. So I also like to recognize them at the February awards, let everybody know these are the people who completed the course. Like they're still working on hours, but they came, they did everything that was, asked of them. And I do try to have them a small something. I mean, it might be something as simple as like forcing a few bulbs or something like that early in little terracotta pots, or it's not something expensive, but it is a little something just so that they know. Like one year I put I know it's early, but I put gladiolus bulbs in little cellophane bags and put a tag on there and said, "We're glad to have you." You know what I mean? Gladiolus. So, I mean, just stuff like that. It doesn't have to be expensive things, but I think that's kind of a neat thing if anybody was searching for ideas.
Yeah, thanks. Does anybody else have any favorite celebrations that they'd like to share with us as we get close to wrapping up here?
We have a Christmas celebration each year, which is really nice. And that's where awards are given out. Unfortunately, at least in my opinion, they're given out for how many hours you put in. And they have pins they provide. I personally find them useless. You know, I'd rather have something useful, like the 2019 gardening calendar, or Master Gardener shirt that I can wear at events and things like that, rather than a pin that I'll stick in a folder, or actually I'm going to return mine so they can use it for other people.
Yeah, and I think that really what what we're getting at is we have different kinds of motivation, and so some people really do appreciate pins, and some people like educational content, and I think that we have that occurring at all sorts of different events. Last year, Celeste gave out the home garden calendars at her February celebration, so there may have been information and pins, and really we're able to touch different kinds of motivation because you have people who want
I agree.
in the group.
Some people love putting those pins on their shirt, so I agree with that.
Yeah.
I guess my point is that if an award's standardized and going to be given out and anticipated, give the people a choice, if as long as it's within the budget.
I want to throw out there just I did do the calendar thing last year because I had extra money in my extension budget. That was not, I mean, those calendars cost money. So I was able to buy those with my extension program money and provide those to my master gardeners. That didn't have to come out of their accounts or their budget. That was something I wanted to do for them. And I felt that it was a good way to kind of, the awards banquet is fun, and we do want to recognize all these special things, but I want to say thank you to everybody. I mean, everyone in the room is volunteers, and everyone has done something for the organization that year. So that was just kind of my way of, recognizing everybody and saying thank you, for what you've done. So I know that probably might not be feasible for everybody, but that was something that I was glad that I was able to do and hope that I can keep doing.
Mm-hmm.
Can everyone hear me? I'd like to share a couple of things with Hamilton County. One of the things we start out with, I don't know if you can see this, the name tag that we've done. Can you see that?
I don't think your camera's on, Tom.
I thought it is. It says it is. I don't know how to do these things.
We can hear you very well, though.
Anyway, it's just it's a regular plastic name tag, only it's orange. I wish you could see it because a couple people have already adopted it. It's basically, a magnetic name tag, just like, let me do this other one. That says I don't have a video. Anyway, oh, okay. Maybe I don't have the thing plugged in. That's a good, yeah, I don't even have the little thing plugged in. Anyway, while I'm doing that, the other thing that we do that's been pretty successful is during the class itself, if someone gets 10.
We've lost Tom.
Oh, I think he may have unplugged his audio when he was plugging in his video.
Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah, this is what he's talking about.
Because that's what you use specifically for intern training.
Yeah. And you can put their names on there with just like a little clear label that you print off, so you can reuse these every year.
Okay.
So like whenever they get their green one, like this, you make them hand in their orange one so that you keep them. And then you just print these. Yeah.
We did something like this, but it was just paper. And, they wanted rid of these, so they did all their hours really fast.
That's what people say about the orange too. They really want the green. And motivation comes in all
Yeah,
all
they
sorts of
hate
ways.
having to wear these because it's like, oh, I'm an intern. So whenever they turn these in and get their green one, like everybody's cheering because they're like, you got your green badge. And so it's a bigger deal than you think, I guess. But yeah.
It is. People flipping tables, throwing confetti in the air.
Yeah. Air horns,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get Tom back, but I'm gonna share a final announcement while we're all here. When I send out the video link for this presentation, I'm also gonna send you guys this PDF flyer, which is our first promo for all of the events that are coming up for our organization in 2019. And so you're gonna get a little bit about the dates, about the location, about all the great regional meetings that are coming up. And so as we get closer to the end of the year, I wanted to make sure everybody had all the dates that they needed for their 2019 calendars. Once we get past the beginning of the year, you'll get some information about registration and all those sorts of things. But we really have some great stuff coming up in 2019. Actually, I think almost all of our host counties are on here. So we've got Bob and Chris, we've got Luminda. So a lot of people have already put a lot of time into planning these meetings, and I'm excited about that.
The Untitled Master Gardeners program as a whole. So this.
So we don't have Tom popping back up. If I get any additional notes from Hamilton County, I'll pass those on to everybody. So I'll send you, once I get this on YouTube, I'll send you the link. I'll send you the promo for our 2019 events. Also, exciting coming up in the next few weeks are going to be our end of year summaries. And to tag on to what Matt's been saying, which I completely agree with, we're going to collect numbers, but we're also going to talk about events. We're going to talk about impact in our community so that we talk about the people behind the hours that we put in. So we'll be asking for that information from all of our local groups. And the end of the month is also the mini grant application if you guys would like to get a little bit additional funding for some of your service projects. So all kinds of good stuff coming up this fall and in our 2019 year. There's so many. We've got 2 or 3 new groups planning for 2019 trainings. I've been visiting with agents wanting to start new Master Gardener programs in Morgan County and in Scott County. I already gave a shout out to Franklin County. So as we end this visit at the end of the year, I just want to say I'm excited. There's great stuff going on across the state, and I'm looking forward to a fabulous year in 2019. So thanks everybody for joining in. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and have a great weekend.
Natalie, can you